that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 5 English lesson on prefixes and suffixes. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of English Language Arts. Grade 5. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to our chapter of prefixes and suffixes. All right. So there is quite a few chapters under the chapter of prefixes and suffixes. So which means that it's going to take us about 3 sessions to complete prefixes and suffixes. So today we will be doing 3 of the lessons, and then every other time we will do about 2 or 3 of the lessons, not to bombard you with a lot. All right. So our chapter is prefixes and suffixes. Our subject is English Language Arts. Grade 5, and the lessons that we're going to be focusing on under the chapter of prefixes and suffixes is words with pre, words with re, and words with sub. So that's going to be the 3 lessons that we're going to be focusing on. And like I said, that the other lessons we are going to still do over a period of about 3 sessions, right? All right. So when it comes to prefixes, right? A prefix can be added to the beginning of a base word to create a new word, right? So a base word is a word that can stand on its own, right? And usually, if you add a prefix to it or a suffix to it, meaning if you add, like, let's say it's either a word or letters at the beginning of that base word, or words or letters at the end of that base word, then it basically creates a new word, right? And remember, a base word is a word that can stand on its own. It's a word that you can create within that you can have within a sentence, and it's on its own, right? It even has its own meaning. And we are going to be finding out about different prefixes. And also, what we will also do is we will then be able to identify the base words within that words before we even add it, or when we, like, if we don't even have the prefix in front of it. And when it comes to prefixes, right? Knowing the meaning of a prefix, remember a prefix, it's either a word or it can be like, let's say, two letters or three letters that you add at the beginning of a base word, right? But that word or three letters or letters, right, has its own meaning before it gets added to a base word. So knowing the meaning of that prefix, it can help you to determine the meaning of a word. So once again, knowing the meaning of a prefix can help you to determine the meaning of a word, right? Because remember, if we have a base word, right, that base word means something, right? And it can be used within a sentence. But now, as soon as we add our prefix to the beginning of that sentence, right, that prefix already has its own meaning. So now, once we add the prefix to that base word, it creates a new meaning based on also what the meaning of that prefix means. So, like, if we look at these few words, right, we said it's going to be words with pre, re, and sub, which means that pre means something, re means something, and sub means something. So when we add it to a specific word, then it means that the words are going to change based on what these three words mean. All right. So if we look at the word if we look at the prefix pre, right? Pre means before. So pre means before, right? Then we have the prefix re, and re means again. Then we have the prefix sub. Sub either means under, or it means below, or it can mean less than. And if we look at these words, right, these prefixes, because now it's not just words, it's prefixes. If we look at the first prefix, sorry, pre, can you think of a few words that starts with the word pre? So a few words that starts with the word pre. All right, if we're going to be looking at a few words that starts with pre, then let's think of a word like preview. Let me type the word preview. So pre, then we have preview, right? And remember, preview is usually a word that means that, let's say you think, let's think of a show, right? Or a movie that you're about to watch, right? And usually the preview of that movie is, it's like a few clips about the movie before watching the actual movie. You see, and that is where the word before comes in, right? It means that we are viewing this specific movie before viewing or watching the actual movie, right? So that's preview. And if you look at the word view, right? View is a word that can stand on its own. It's like view is like you have a view of something, something that you can see, right? So now preview, right, is something that you see before something comes on or something plays, right? Then we also have a word prevent. These are now also words that starts with pre, right? These are just now random words that I'm also now coming up with. Prevent. And prevent is a word, right? If you look at the word prevent, when will they usually tell you to prevent? Usually they will tell you to prevent doing something before you get hurt, right? It's like prevent from going on the trampoline because it's going to break, or prevent from touching something hot before you're going to burn, right? It's like somebody is preventing you from doing something before you get hurt, right? That is preventing. And then if we look at another word, right? Look at the word, let's think of the word preschool. There we have a word preschool, right? And it's basically, it means that preschool is like a pre-primary before you actually go to primary school. Remember, primary school starts at grade 1, right? Or let's say grade R, depending. But specifically at grade 1, because then you have like foundation phase, intermediate phase. Okay, it's different in our countries, right? But preschool is usually where you go, it's like you go to school before you actually go to school. It's like before you go to grade 1. That is why we will usually tell the kiddies that is graduating from preschool that, oh, you're going to big school now, right? And preschool learners are separated from the other primary school learners because they're also in the preschool. It is before actual school, before the actual primary school. Then we also have a prefix. And I'm not talking about prefixes and suffixes. Prefix is where you do something, it's like where you fix something before, right? It's like, oh, let us quickly prefix let's maybe say the tire that has a puncture. Instead of replacing the whole tire, we are just going to fix the puncture. The actual fixing. All right. So that is a few words with pre, right? And there are many, many more words with pre, but for now, that is just a few examples of pre. So if you can think of more words of pre, then by all means, you can write it down, right? But these are just a few of the words. And if we look at the let's do this. If we look at, remember we said a prefix can be added to the beginning of a base word, right? To create a new word. And knowing the meaning of a prefix can help you to determine the meaning of the word. Remember the word pre is our prefix actually. Pre, right? That is our prefix. And the base word is the word like view, vent, school, fix. Those are our base words. And the word pre is added at the beginning of this base word, and that's why it changes the word. Because remember, view is like when you're looking at something, right? School, it's like the actual school that you're going to, right? From primary school to high school. Fix is when you're doing something, right? You're mending something. But once we add this word pre before it, and pre means before, then it means a preview. It's like instead of just viewing something, looking at something, it is before we view or we look at something. Preschool, it's before actual preschool, before an actual school, right? All right. Now we have another word, re. And re is also a prefix. And the meaning of re means again, right? So something that means again, we will usually add re in front of that base word. And remember, a base word is a word that can stand on its own, right? But as soon as we add this word re to that base word, and then it changes the meaning or creates a new word, right? And it determines or changes the meaning of that word. All right. And if we look at the prefixes, and if we look at the prefix with re, right? Remember we said re means again. For example, let's look at the word renew, right? Let me type the word. It's going to be way better. And it doesn't disappear. All right. So if we look at the word renew, right? Renew is a word, and there we have the word new, which is our base word. And remember, we said new is something that is, wow, it's like I just got something. It's the opposite of old, right? I never had it. But then we have the word renew, right? Then we have the word renew. And the word renew And the word renew means it's almost like you're repeating something new. It's like I think there's different words to renewing. Can be a it's, it can be an it's, it can be a almost like a new friendship, right? Or it's like we were friends and we out of friends because of whatever that happened, and now we are friends again, so we renewed our friendship. It's like renewing a contract, right? So you already worked at a specific place. Let's say you already worked at a specific place, and now they are like, oh, your contract is coming to an end, but we really love your job, so we're going to renew your contract, which means that we're going to extend the contract, right? And that is basically what renew means. Something had already started, but we are almost like we're resuming, we are continuing. So it's going to start afresh, right? And that is how it's going to be. It's like repeating something, if that is also a word. Then we have another word. And if we think, let me take that away. And if we look at another word, right? Let's say, for example, reheat, right? And the word reheat, remember to heat something, right? It's like you're warming it up. So think of warming your food, right? Your food is already hot and they've already warmed your food in the microwave. Now you are chit chatting, or you maybe had to do certain things before, and now your food goes cold, and then you put it back in the microwave, which means that you're going to reheat your food, which means that you're heating it again, right? And with that, right, if we look, remember we said the word heat, right, is a base word. It can stand on its own, right? And once we add the word reheat to it, right, to that word heat, it means that we are heating it again. But now that very same word, heat, right, we can even put it by the the word pre, right? And we can even say preheat. And think of baking, right? When they'll usually tell you to preheat the oven to whatever degrees, right? Meaning that they're saying that the oven needs to be heated first before you put the cake mixture in, right? And that means preheat. So do you see how the words changes based on the prefix that was added to it? Like re that is added to the word heat, or pre that is added to the word heat, right? All right, and let's go to sub. Then we have the word sub, right? Sub means either under, or sub means below, or sub means it means less than, right? And if we say sub, that means less than, then it can mean subtract, because that means less than. Remember subtracting. If we do mathematics, right, and we need to subtract, then it means that we need to subtract 2 from 5, then we're going to have 2 less, right? That is subtracting 2 from the 5 that we had. That is subtracting. All right, so that is less than. If we think of under, right, then we can think of the word submarine. right? Submarine. And submarine, right? If you think of a marine that works, it's basically you work, let's say on sea or at the sea. I'm not sure if it's on sea or at the sea, right? But now if we have a submarine, right? So it's not just that you work on sea, right? But you're working specifically underwater. Sub means under, or it means below. And that is what submarine means. If we can also think of a word like um, substitute, right? So a substitute, if you think of, I'm not sure if you had substitute teachers at your school, right? So I'm not sure if you had substitute teachers at your school, but a substitute teacher is not the actual teacher at the school, right? It's like you're just coming to stand in for another teacher for that specific time. Which means that, yes, the substitute teacher can be a teacher for that period of time, but that substitute teacher cannot go above the teacher. The teacher is still the one that makes the decisions, so she is under the teacher. And we don't mean it in a negative way, but we mean it in the manner of she's not the actual assigned teacher to the class. And that is why we say she's not the head teacher. She's still under your teacher when it comes to decision making. And that is basically substitute. And then the last one, we can say subtitle. Right? And if we look at the word subtitle, where have you already heard the word subtitle? So, subtitle, right? If we look at the word, like maybe we look at the book or something, right? A story. Now, in the story, we have a title, right? So, the title of the story is Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? That's the title of the story. But now, the subtitle is basically other, let's say, if we are going to divide the story into the different acts that they did, right? So first we have Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Now we're first going to tell you about Goldilocks eating the porridge. That is a subtitle, right? So the actual title of the book is Goldilocks and the Three Bears. But the first, let's say the chapter or the first thing that we're maybe going to talk about is Goldilocks eating the porridge. That is a subtitle. That is under the title, right? So now we're going to be talking about how Goldilocks ate the porridge. Then another subtitle can be where Goldilocks sat on the chair and it broke, slept in the bed and it broke, right? So that is subtitles. It is under the main title of the story, the main title of something. And once again, our prefix sub means either under, below, or it means less than. Right? All right. Guys, we're gonna go straight to our A plus class, A plus students.ca, and then we're going to do our test, right? So, because we've already explained everything to the T. Does everybody understand what prefixes mean, especially prefixes with pre, prefixes with re, and prefixes with sub? Do we understand what that means before we continue? All right. So we're going to words with pre, right? And now we're going to do our test with words with pre. Remember we said words with pre, right? A prefix firstly is a word that is added to the beginning of a base word, right? And knowing the word or the meaning of the prefix, like for example, pre, will help you to determine the meaning of the new word. So pre means before, right? So pre means before. And now it says, why might football teams want to pre-season games? So why might football teams want to pre-season games? Is it to get some practice ahead of the upcoming season? Or is it to get some practice during the current season? Option 1 or option 2 as to why football teams want to play pre-season games. If you're a soccer fan, then by all means, you will know this, apart from knowing what just pre means. All right. So football players would like to want to play preseason games to get some practice ahead of the upcoming games. It's like getting a few practices before the actual season starts. Before they start playing games, before they start playing for that trophy, right? Now they'll be playing friendlies. When would you preheat an oven? You see there with the word preheat comes on that we made mention of. Preheat. So when would you preheat an oven? Is it right when you are ready to use it? So it means that I am going to put in my cookie dough mixture now, or my cake mixture now, and now I switch it on, or a few minutes before you are ready to use it. Option 1 or option 2, when would you preheat an oven? Right when you're ready to use it, like immediately now when I'm about to use it, or a few minutes before I'm going to use it? All right, so we would preheat an oven a few minutes before you are ready to use it. That is why they will say preheat the oven to Then you do your mixing and you're preparing your stuff. Then by the time you put in your cookie mixture, your cookie dough, your cake mixture, muffin mixture, and then the oven is already heated. So it's a few minutes before you're ready to use it. When would a group of people pre-screen a movie? Pre-screen. Remember, screening a movie is when we are like the movie is ready to be released. We are about to watch this movie. It is coming out today. Bridgerton is about to play now. But when would they pre-screen a movie or series? Is it after a film is released to the public, or is it before the film is released to the public? When would a group of people pre screen a movie? After or before the film is released to the public? And if we were to choose the correct answer, we would say it is before the film is released to the public. Remember, pre means before, right? Now we're going on to the next one, which is going to be words with re, right? And remember, we said re means again. And if we go to our test, right, it says, which would you be more likely to refold? It's like folding it again. Because remember, refold, not even refold, but re means again. So which would you be more likely to fold, to refold? Is it a perfectly folded sheet or a crumbled napkin? Something that you'd refold. It's like I need to fold it again. All right. And we would refold something, like fold it again. We would fold a crumbed napkin, right? Like we would not fold a perfectly folded sheet. Why might you repack a suitcase? If you're about to go to the Bahamas, if you're about to go to Italy or to France with your family, right? And you've already looked for clothes, you've already packed, but now you realize, oh, I forgot certain things. I put in like stuff that, unnecessary stuff. Would you repack a suitcase because it won't close? Or would you repack a suitcase because it closes easily? So if you have too much clothes, right, and it doesn't want to close, would you repack it? Or if it perfectly closes, would you repack it? And if we were to choose the correct one, we would say because it won't close. So now we repack something. We repack the suitcase up until we fit something. We take some out, which needs to be rearranged, like arranging something, but we are rearranging it. We're arranging it again. Is it a tidy stack of papers or a messy pile of papers? Would you rearrange a tidy stack of papers or a messy pile of papers? All right, and we would rearrange a messy pile of papers. not something that is tidy, right? All right, and then lastly, we're going to words with sub. And remember, we said words with sub either means it either means below or it means under, right? Or it can mean less than. So how does a sub chapter, so we have a chapter of a book or a chapter of an article or something, but how does a sub chapter compare to the actual chapter it's in? Can we say that the sub chapter is shorter, or can we say the sub chapter is longer? What do you think? Is a sub chapter shorter or longer? All right, so we can then say a sub chapter is shorter. Which is a subsurface activity? Is a subsurface activity harvesting wheat or drilling for oil? Remember, sub is either under or below or less than. So when we are harvesting wheat, are we harvesting wheat underground? If we're drilling for oil, are we drilling for oil underground or is it just on top? Right? And if we were to have a subsurface activity, then we would say drilling for oil. Because remember, drilling for oil, we drill for oil from underground, right? That is where we get the oil. Harvesting wheat is like on top of the soil. All right, last one. What can a submarine do that a regular boat can't? What can a submarine do that a regular boat can't do? So a submarine can dive beneath the surface of the ocean, or a submarine hover over the surface of the ocean. So what does a submarine do? Does it just stay there on top, like, floating on top of the waters? Or does it go underneath? Like, does it dive beneath the surface of the ocean? It goes under the water. All right, so we can then say that a submarine dives beneath the surface of the ocean. All right, so that is the end of our lesson on prefixes and suffixes, right? And we focused on the lessons words with pre, words with re, and words with sub. And we said that a prefix is a word that we add to the beginning of a base word, right? And it's a word that can stand on its own, right? Base words can stand on its own. And once we add a prefix at the beginning of a base word, it basically creates a new word or a new meaning, right? And knowing the meanings of the prefixes or suffixes will help you to determine the meaning of a new word or of that word. We said pre means before, re means again, sub means either less than, under, or it means below. All right, so that is the end of our lessons, grade 5. I really hope that you have an idea or you understood what prefixes means. Right, till next time, have a good day further. Goodbye.